think it's time to throw my voice into the hat of opinions on this topic because you AI artists are not artists. Please stop calling yourself artists. And the only reason I'm even bringing this up is because thanks to the release of Google VO and just, other stuff, Instagram, some YouTube, and even on here, I've been subjected to more AI than ever before. Like, for the most part, I was able to avoid it. I knew how to avoid it, especially on Instagram. I just removed the tag. The AI artists usually tag their stuff as AI, and I'm like, cool, you do that. I don't care for it. But now I am subjected to it. I always see it, and I can always tell it's AI just because media and art is what I do. And well, stop calling yourself artists just because for one basic thing, y'all do not understand the fundamentals of creation. That right there is honestly the biggest issue. Not understanding the fundamentals of creation. We're going to ignore the other elephants in the room, like the fact that these AI programs are stealing from people using, copyright infringement without their permission, as well as the whole environmental issue. Yeah, we're just not going to include that right now. But y'all don't understand the fundamentals of creation, and now we're really going to explain why. And I'm gonna do that by playing a little video. So class is in session. Pay attention because I don't want to give you an F. I don't like giving my students an F.
Make sure moms are safe.
So you might see that and go, wow, the technology's gotten crazy. But I see that and go, why is the tracking shot literally a video game? It used a video game as its model because that placement is a video game camera. But even when you take that little technical annoyance away, what was it supposed to be? What was it supposed to do? Like, it's a short story of a generic disaster scene with a car driving through with misplaced physics. We have seen these scenes metaphorically a million times before. The only difference between the ones we've seen and that is the bad physics and computation power that it took to make it. Here's an example. I'm doing this the lazy way, but this is a fun game I like called Split Second. Oh, look. Fractals and debris and all that stuff. But you know why it works in that video game? It's because all that's meant to convey a sense of speed and action. And in fact, it's players that are able to trigger those environmental hazards as a way to be a obstacle for other players or the AI. You see what I did there? It has purpose. Secondly, there's no sense of urgency at all. Yeah, you have the guy going, oh, what's going on in this city? But when you see from the actual shots is from the tracking shot is it just looks like somebody running a benchmark to show their physics simulation that they made in like their custom engine or Unreal or whatnot, like once again, a video game. But with the fundamental difference being it's not their benchmark. You're not showing all physics that you learned, like a node tree, something that, you created, like I said, in Unreal, blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. It's just generative AI. So there's really nothing you can even put on your resume or anything you learned from that, to be honest. Here's what I mean. Taking out the time to learn something like Houdini, you can at least, get some basic practice on like how these things work in the background, how they're created in the background. No, a genuine learning process. I'm doing this the lazy way, but I too have examples of stuff like this. Basically me like experimenting, trying to learn things, but this was actually done in 3D. Now they may or may not use it, but at least actually learn something, because trust me, you're not going to create a disaster film or Transformers on your home laptop or workstation, but you're also not going to do it using generative AI either. The amount of computation that takes is woo. Now I'm gonna use Shadowversity, which everybody got on his ass over a year ago when this was happening. However, he just works as the most famous example for this, so that's why I'm just using him. But you can instantly see the issue on the right. He's like, my AI assisted art skill 6 months ago, my AI assisted art skill now. Over a 6-month period, you know what he learned? Nothing, because the most glaring issue is the lighting. Why is there two sources of light, two sun sources? How is the sun in the background but also lighting her in the front? One of the first things we learn when trying to learn art is how lighting works, how shading works. As you see right here, this is charcoal. And my first time working with charcoal for, I think, my basic drawing class years ago. And, this is me trying to understand where the highlights are, where the darks are. Same here, life drawing. This little perspective work. Obviously, yeah, I messed up a little bit right here because this has this here, but then this is like super shaded. Mistakes are made, but one of the first things you go to learn is how lighting works. Even here, like understand, I didn't make any models. I did the smoke myself by hand, but this was provided to us by our professor, and then we just had to, come up with an idea. And this was mine, a chase scene and blah 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 blah. But still, once again, these fundamental things that cross over understanding how lighting works. Because so if the sun's going to be here, I need an image that correlates with that, because I put that sun glare in there, as well as making sure these shadows are somewhat appropriate. And it's not about like even being great at it, because I still have my first sketchbook. It was a process to go from this to that. I'm still not the greatest, but better understanding of like shading and lighting and yada yada yada. Just like how it was a process to go from stuff like this to this to this, to get things like this, and that. Or shot composition like this, understanding how to keep things in frame and what you're looking for. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is that you have to put in the reps regardless. There are no shortcuts. Yes, tools exist, but the tools exist as an extension, not a substitute. So say like I use a digital camera. The digital camera works as an extension. It's a tool. It's easier for me to take snap photos and process photos than it would be if I was using just a basic film camera where I have to use a darkroom and everything else. But I still have to understand how shot composition works. I still have to understand my lighting. And if I'm doing a photo shoot, something that's intentional, everything in there is by intent. Yeah, there might be some experimenting. What is it like if the light's over here? What happens if I try it from like this angle? Or wear like this style of clothing? You still play around with things, but for the most part, you have intent going into the project, because that's how the magic happens. These tools are a extension, not a substitute. Back when AI first really jumped off, one of the arguments people would like to use was like, well, photography, they just do it because they couldn't do painting. And I was like, that's not completely true. Those are two separate disciplines, even though there's crossover, with color theory and understanding composition. And because of that, that's how you had stuff like the pictorialist movement, where they wanted to show the photographers that were set at them that we too can do fine art. And then they put in the reps. And I think that was Edward Stieglitz who was behind that. Sorry, not sorry, but there just aren't any shortcuts. You're going to have to learn art, because if you don't, well, you end up with AI slop that peddles crypto bullshit and other, ads and finance scams, which is, when you think about it, that's truly telling.